One of the girls behind the so-called Slender Man attempted murder trial is scheduled to be released from custody as early as today. Defendant Morgan Geyser was 12 years old when she and another girl stabbed their classmate 19 times. Geyser was found not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect. Now the time has come for modified conditional release for her. So what's this mean, and what does the community have to say? Well, according to the city attorney, there are concerns.
Because all we know at this point is that she's going to be placed in a community that's a densely populated residential area with close proximity to a number of schools, daycares, and parks. And our residents, if they find out about this, will be outraged. And I understand that the plan is confidential, but unfortunately, due to the notoriety of this case, I think if our residents see Ms. Geyser outside of the home or taking a walk in the neighborhood with supervision, they will be aware of who she is.
So this is kind of like a step-down facility. You know, she's going from the facility where she monitored 24/7 to one with much less monitoring. There's activities there, knitting, gardening, sewing, blah, blah, blah. But is she going to be a danger to anybody at that facility, or if she's out? Because it's far less restrictive than the custody she's been in for the last several years. Let's talk about this. Let's bring back in criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Mario Gallucci and parenting and family relationship expert, psychologist Dr. Sue Kornbluth. Great to have you both. And Mario, I felt so bad we lost you there earlier. I think we got you back. Cross fingers. Let me start with you here, please. Your thoughts on Morgan Geyser. Should the community be worried about this woman?
So she was not convicted. She was found not guilty by reason of insanity. So that's not a conviction. You don't go to prison. You go to a state mental hospital where you are regularly evaluated by doctors and given treatment. And at this point, doctors have evaluated her and said that she is not a danger to herself or to the community, and that she should go to this step-down facility, which is not really a release. I mean, you weren't in jail, so you're not in custody. You're in a hospital setting. People don't understand that. People think that not guilty by reason of insanity means that you stay in the facility forever. You don't. I mean, sometimes it ends up being longer than a prison sentence if you never become stable again. But it seems like she's progressed. She was a young child at the time of the stabbing. She's now older, and doctors believe that she's not a threat to herself or the community.
Mario, thank you for the explainer there. It's wonderfully helpful for anybody who hasn't worked in the criminal system. Yeah, you're right. I mean, at some point, people like Morgan Geyser can be let go. And then the question is, okay, is she going to continue to be stable? Dr. Sue, this is where I want to bring you in here. We know when she's in the facility, you know, the state hospital, obviously she's going to be checked and rechecked, and there's so much monitoring. But here at this step down, not as much in terms of the mental health evaluation process, or at least not as frequently, perhaps, for her. They're going to try to reacclimate her into life. Does that concern you as a psychologist?
Yes, and in fact, this whole thing concerns me because what I want to bring up here is one name, Peyton Lautner, who was stabbed 19 times by this young girl. Look, she was 12 years old when this happened, and I understand this, but in a step-down facility, I don't know if that's the best thing here because it is less monitoring, right? She's going to be in a facility where she's going to have a lot more privileges. She's going to be wearing, I think, a rest monitor on her ankle. But to me, she needs to still be monitored very, very closely. There is a history of schizophrenia within this family. And what concerns me the most is what she was first said the facility that she was going to be brought down to was right near Peyton Lautner. I feel like everyone is forgetting that Peyton Lautner was a traumatized victim by this young girl who stabbed her 19 times, Julie. That's a lot. And so this whole thing concerns me right now. I believe she should have stayed where she was for a very long time.
Dr. Sue, appreciate it. And we're going to talk much more with you in our next hour. We're going to do a big deep dive into this case. Thank you for recognizing victim Peyton Lautner. Mario, I want to share with you something the prosecutor noted at the last court hearing, said that the victims were notified of what was a change in placement for Morgan Geyser. As you know, Mario, she was supposed to go to one facility that was going to be even less restrictive than the one she's going to be released to now. And the family said, well, now with this change, with a little more restrictions, more activities, more monitoring perhaps, it's the lesser of two evils, they said. Mario, thinking like, do me a favor, think like a prosecutor for a second, not like the wonderful criminal defense attorney that you are, like a prosecutor back in the day. What might you say to Peyton Lautner's family? What might you say to them when they don't want to see this release happen right now? But as you noted moments ago, legally, you know, it's going to happen at some point.
So it's important that prosecutors have a very good relationship with their victims. And in this case, they made the victim notification, letting them know that she's going to go down to the step-down facility. They also had the opportunity to have this young lady evaluated by their own doctors. And I believe they're having a hearing today. At that hearing, they can contest the report from the facility she's in now. If they have their own doctors evaluate her and they think that she could be a threat to the community or herself, then maybe she stays in that facility. That's basically what that hearing is for today. So there is an opportunity for them to be heard, for the victims to have some input into that. And you would tell your victims, look, we had her evaluated by our own team of doctors, and they agree with the facility, or they don't agree with the facility, and now it's going to be up to the judge. But they're doing everything possible to keep them in the loop, which is what you're supposed to be doing as a prosecutor. Keep your victims, keep your witnesses, everybody in the loop.
That's all really helpful. Mario Gallucci, thank you so much for weighing in. I'm sorry our time was cut short today. I know you had a big high-profile trial to get to. Thank you for making time for us. We'll see you soon. Dr. Sue Kornbluth is coming with us. Please do the same at home. When we come back, we're going to continue our coverage with the Slender Man stabbing case and the latest from Morgan Geyser. That is all for opening statements, folks. If you like the episode, share it with your friends. We'll be right back in just 4 minutes.
I came up from behind her, and I jumped on her. I tackled her, and I stabbed her.
Do you know how many times you did it?
19.
That's a little bit from Morgan Geyser. She is set to be released possibly as early as today. Welcome to Court TV Live. I'm Julie Grant. Geyser became infamous because of the Slender Man stabbing case. She's now 22 years old, and she's set to be released from a state facility. She's been in a state hospital since her trial ended, and she's going to step down to a group home and start the process of reintegration into the community. So she's been in the psychiatric hospital since she lured her former classmate to a park and stabbed that classmate, Peyton Lautner, 19 times, as you heard her say just there in the courtroom. Let's get you caught up now on the facts of this case. Court TV anchor Michael Ayala has more.
I just want to let Bella and her family know I'm sorry. I never meant this to happen.
That's Morgan Geyser at her sentencing hearing after pleading guilty to a brutal stabbing that left her friend clinging to life. Geyser and another girl, Anissa Wire, stabbed fellow sixth grader Peyton Bella Lautner after a sleepover at Geyser's home. The girls, who were 12 years old, claimed they carried out the attack over their belief in a fictional internet horror character named Slender Man.
I believed that if I didn't go through with it, Slender Man would come and attack and kill myself, my friends, and my family.
Wire pleaded guilty to being a party to second-degree homicide, while Geyser pleaded guilty to attempted first-degree intentional homicide. Both girls were deemed not responsible for their actions because of mental illness and ordered to serve their sentences at mental health facilities. 25 years for Anissa Wire, 40 years for Geyser. At a separate plea hearing, the girls described what happened as they attacked their friend on that spring day in 2014.
Morgan asked me whether or not she should do it, and I just wanted it to be over with, so I said, just go berserk, do what you have to do.
I came up from behind her, and I jumped on her. I tackled her, and I stabbed her.
Do you know how many times you did it?
19.
Their victim, 12-year-old Peyton Leutner, was stabbed in her arms, legs, chest, and torso and had multiple surgeries to repair her internal injuries. Anissa Wire was granted conditional release in 2021. Morgan Geyser is requesting conditional release from the mental health facility where she's been kept since 2017.
Michael Ayala reporting there. So let's revisit her path to release. Let's go back to the hearing from last week. Here we go.
This is a little bit like Groundhog Day, because the last time I appeared I did this too, but it keeps changing a little bit.
No.
On January 9th of 25, my predecessor, Judge Boren, ordered that Ms. Geyser be released under a conditional release plan. On March 6th, 25, there was a subsequent petition to revoke the release plan, which Judge Boren denied. On April 28th of 25, there was a hearing on the first plan where we discovered an issue about the proximity to the victim is discovered, and we tried to reset and do it again. On July 9th, and that's when I take over, a new conditional release plan is submitted. On July 16th, I get an addendum and rules for the plan. I hold a hearing, the court holds a hearing on July 17th, and require 2 additional components, but conditionally approve the plan. One is that I get control, or the court gets control, over any change in placement or removal of GPS monitoring. On July 18th, the revised plan is submitted in accordance with the court's instruction. And after receiving no objections, I indicated I approve the plan on July 25th. And then this week, a new plan is filed, changing location and some other details, mostly specifically identifying the treatment providers. I did go through it line by line. But I'm going to start with my question is, why are we changing the plan?
Thank you, Judge. I think that question, is it okay if I start?
Absolutely. Okay, if anybody can answer the question,
yeah,
I'm happy to hear.
I can answer the question because I've spoke with Ms. Graff 2 or 3 times about that. So basically the bottom line is that the original home that had been proposed, as you know, was generally in the Manitowoc area. That home, as I understand it, was essentially being, and I don't want to misstate anything, we have Ms. Graff here, but it was essentially being built for Ms. Geyser, if you will. There were no other residents there. There were no other patients that were going to be at that facility. It was just going to be Ms. Geyser. That had been approved. Nobody had a problem with that. After the hearing, I learned from DHS that they had found what they considered to be a more suitable location for Ms. Geyser. That's why you mentioned Sun Prairie at the beginning of this hearing. The Sun Prairie facility, generally, as I understand it, has 2 or 3 additional residents that are there. It's been a place that's been in existence for a longer period of time. It offers more treatment services for Ms. Geyser. It's my understanding that she would have more access to services at that home, things like sewing, for example, or knitting, some excursions, maybe some gardening. And so it was DHS's position that that facility was better. And obviously they're under the statutes under 971-17. Once the court approves the conditional release, DHS has to formulate the plan. So they had presented the plan to you. After that hearing, they called me because I've been involved in Ms. Geyser's life now for 12 years. And they said, what's your thought about this home? My thought all along has been, Judge Boren approved her release back in January. I just want her to move on to the next phase. That's my overarching concern, and Morgan's too. But obviously, if you have a facility that's been in existence for a longer period of time, I imagine there's cost savings associated with that as well, probably, because it's not being customized, built, so to speak, for Ms. Geyser. It sounded like there was somebody, maybe some age-appropriate person who might have been there also, so she could have some interaction with a peer that's her age. So what I said to them, Judge, in the interest of transparency, I just said I'm fine with that. I'm not going to stand. It's not my job to stand in the way of DHS. If you think Sun Prairie is better, then submit it, and we'll see what happens with that. So that's the background. That's why you got that modified plan, and then there was basically the treatment all remained the same. There's different providers, but the condition hasn't changed. There's been no change with Miss Geyser that necessitated them changing the home. It's not like she became more dangerous, for example, and they needed a more secure facility. It was strictly from a holistic perspective. They felt this facility was better, and that's why they offered it.
Well, let's talk about this hearing now. Let me bring in our guest, still with me, parenting and family relationship expert, author, and psychology expert, Dr. Sue Kornbluth, and law enforcement expert. I recently got her honorary doctorate degree, Dr. Sunny Slaughter. I love having you two on the program, and you two know each other, and so this is fantastic. We can have you do some analysis on this Geyser case because I am definitely concerned. It's one of these cases where I understand that legally she has rights. We can't keep her forever. If she appears stable, she can be released. But also, I think of this as somebody in the public who would be terrified to live near this girl. I think she's just could be a problem waiting to happen. So it's how do we force her to make sure she continues with her treatment? This is tough. Sunny, let me go to you first here. Your thoughts on the safety aspect, the community safety. How great do you think this concern is with Morgan Geyser?
Good morning, Julie. Good morning, Dr. Sue. Glad to be on with both of you, and particularly for this case. Okay, so I have concerns, and my first concerns start with the hearing that we just saw, where the state doesn't know what they are doing. They need to get it together, and that is my first concern, is that they don't have it together enough, and they're changing things, and last minute. This has been going on for a long time. My other concerns are exactly like yours, Julie. She's been away for a long time. This was a brutal and heinous attempted murder. And I am not 100% sure about our mental health capabilities in our systems. And I just want the public to be aware. Everyone should be notified that she's in the area. They should be aware if they see any suspicious to report it, but they also should not target her. She does have a right to acclimate back to society. That is what our criminal justice system does, but they need to keep every available lens on her until we have sure proof that she is not a danger to the public. And that is law enforcement's job. They are going to need to be on ready at all times.
Yes, Sunny, thank you for all of that. Important points there. Dr. Sue, let me ask you please about the window of time. So backing up, this girl was 12 years old when she did this awful crime. And we know, there was premeditation involved. She and that other friend, Anissa Weirs, the other girl's name, lured Peyton Lautner into the woods to do this stabbing. Brutal. As you indicated earlier, Dr. Sue, 19 stab wounds. This was incredible. I think it caught the nation by storm when you heard these children hurt another child in this way. It's unconscionable. Now she's 22, so we've got 10 years between the event and now. Dr. Sue, what do you think about that amount of time for treatment?
Great question, Julie. I think 10 years is a long time, right? The brain develops over that time in different ways. And, she was monitored. So could there be change in her? Absolutely, there could be. The issue that I believe here is that she was deemed mentally ill at the time it happened. So that doesn't just go away. So what is really important here with this change is that if she's on medication, is that going to be monitored? Or is she just going to be taking the medication on her own? I know this is a step down, okay? But sometimes in step downs, the level of monitoring somebody that has a mental illness also goes down too. And that is scary for this community. And so I have great concern about whether or not she's ready to be reintegrated into society. Yes, it's 10 years, but mental illness, Julie and Sunny, does not just go away.
Excellent points, Dr. Sue. Excellent points. I have more questions I want to ask you both because you got me thinking. Not all these facilities are exactly the same, so much of it's dependent upon the facility where she's going. Yeah, big. You both know. You both know. Every state is like that. You know, sometimes you could, okay, this is reassuring. She's going there, or oh, yikes, she's going there. So here's what we're gonna do. We got to hit our first break. Sunny Slaughter, Sue Kornblue, stand by kindly, please. We'll hit a break. We'll continue with this release plan that could go into effect today. Morgan Geyser could be walking free as early as today. We'll be right back.
Matriarch of the Adelson family gets arrested.
This is terrible. Donna Adelson is facing charges of murder, the death of her former son-in-law, Dan Markell.
Prosecutors say a bitter child custody battle was the motive for the murder-for-hire plot. Now that Donna has turned into a defendant, what's next for the Adelson clan?
Now that the ship is really sinking fast, blood doesn't matter that much.
The Matriarch Mastermind murder trial. Live coverage begins August 19th, only on Court TV.
I just want to let Bella and her family know I'm sorry. Never meant this to happen. And I hope that she's doing well.
Morgan Geyser set to be released today from a mental health facility. This after a judge signed off on the move last week. Geyser's now 22 years old. She'll soon transition out of that state psychiatric hospital setting into a group home. She's been at that particular psych hospital for the last 7 years after luring a former classmate into a park and stabbing her 19 times. Geyser claims that she committed the act to please the fictional character Slender Man. This hour, we're playing back some key moments from her last motions hearing last week, which led to the judge's release decision. Let's go back into the courtroom together now.
I thought it was appropriate that we come back together. I also think it's appropriate that the victims would have an opportunity to be heard. We did comply with victim rights legislation, and I can tell the court that the department also spoke with the victims about this change. What I can tell the court, the victims don't wish to address you directly today, but I do have some kind of background information that I think can help give you at least some semblance of understanding of how this is quite a different process from the last, from the co-defendant that was released, simply because all of this plan is sealed and confidential. And so it's very difficult for the victims because they're not able to know anything about the plan. And so they kind of feel like they're in a position of having to just basically trust what they're being told by the department. They appreciated the discussion that the department had with them about the differences between the facilities, and it sounds like they did have quite a lengthy conversation about, I'm assuming, kind of what Attorney Cotton just informed the court, but in more detail. And I think that after that conversation, they felt sort of like this new facility was perhaps the lesser of two evils, and they thought potentially that would be a safer place for placement. But in the end, they really have no insight into what the terms of the plan are. And so their overarching request is just that you, judge, do your due diligence and use your best judgment to make sure that the placement is going to offer the most protection for their daughter, the victim. Because they don't know what's in the plan, that's really all they can do is ask that you use your due diligence. So they are also thankful that the hearing got set today. They're here, and so those were that, in addition to, again, a little bit of frustration with the delay and the not really understanding why this has all happened after we seemingly had a plan and now we're back again. Other than that, those were kind of the feelings that I wanted to relay to you on behalf of the victim. And just note that we are in compliance with victim rights legislation. I don't have a lot of insight into the minutia of the differences between these facilities. So I don't feel equipped to offer you any type of opinion on I would rely on the victim's wishes. I know that they seemed to believe that this newer placement might be more appropriate, but I would really leave it to you to ask the questions that you think need to be asked of the department to determine why this change was made and why this placement is better. Understanding that at the end of the day, the conditional release was granted, and so we need to make a decision here at a point in time where we can move forward to the next step. And I understand that, the victims understand that, and that's hopefully something that we can accomplish. So those are really my thoughts.
All right, so let's get some thoughts from our expert guests. Let's bring back in Dr. Sue Kornbluth and Dr. Sunny Slaughter. Okay, let's pick up kind of where you're both shaking your heads. Oh, that was a reaction to what we just saw. I'm going to hold my question and just let you two go. All right, Dr. Sue, go ahead, please.
I have like steam coming out of my ears right now. Like, what in the world is our justice system doing? Let me just say this right off the bat. When you sentence somebody to 40 years for stabbing someone, and I know they were 12 years old, okay? But it was premeditated. She was delusional, believing in the Slender Man. And then she went and got her other friend involved to do this. What message are we sending out to the world? That you can stab somebody, get 40 years, and get out in 7 years? This is not sending a good message out to the world or our youth. Another thing, what is she stepping down to? A group home? A group home isn't really a mental health lockdown facility. A group home, you have privileges in. You can go out on trips, putting her back into the community. Who in their right mind would put her first back in the community, 8 miles from where Peyton lived? I just don't understand what is going on here. Am I crazy?
No, not at all. I preach, Dr. Sue. I'm with you. I am with you. I know Sunny is too. Sunny, go ahead, my friend. Your thoughts.
Oh my goodness, Sue, Dr. Sue, yes, 100% on it. Let me just say this. First of all, the judge knows nothing except for what he is reading in a report. He has never gone to these facilities. He has never assessed them. He is taking the words of people who are in the community, so-called working with these folks. That is absolutely not enough. They need a third party entity or individuals to assess these facilities and the facility that she's going to and assess the protocols that they are going to have in place. Dr. Sue, please call them, let them know that you are available, and I will do the oversight for what these facilities are. She is stepping down, and as Dr. Sue, stepping down into what? Stepping down into the community who has not been prepared. They have not met with the community. They have not had these conversations. They have not addressed the concerns of the community. They have not really addressed the concerns of the victim. This is not how we should be saying that we are going to provide public safety to the public after a 12-year-old and her friend were able to stab someone 19 times. If she did it at 12 watching television, and right now we are seeing what is happening on television now, what is she going to do later? Because now she can watch whatever she wants to watch. Things can happen. I am very concerned. This is not how we should do this. If the plan was disrupted so fast and so quick after they supposedly did it, then this means they are not ready.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm with you, Sunny. Yes. Thank you for all of that. And to your point, what's the rush? What is the rush with this girl? Like, when we think about it, let's just stop and pause here. This was a bad crime. I couldn't agree with you ladies more. You've given us brilliant insight here. I mean, we think about it. Why are we pushing to have her released now? There's no rush in the world here. And you're right, Sunny, they didn't have their act together. They were going to release her to a place about 8 miles from where Peyton Lautner lives. And then they all went, oops, we don't need to do that. Let's back up and reset. And they come for another plan. And then in March, let me just remind everybody what came up in March in court. I forgot about this for a second. I had to go back to our reporting. There was a concern brought up in the courtroom in March that while she's in this psych facility, she's reading books with a theme of sexual sadism and the sale of human organs on the black market. These are her interests. Her interests. I know. So yeah, exactly. So Dr. Sue, yeah, please. If this is where her mind's going, you think she needs some more treatment?
It's screaming she doesn't need to be released. By the way, I think you missed one thing that I read last night.
Tell me.
She was sending photos to somebody outside of jail of decapitated human beings.
Yes.
Oh my.
Yes.
Oh my.
Yes.
We'll work to confirm that. Thank you for that. We'll work to confirm that.
Yeah,
that's
please.
horrible. That's horrible if that's true.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. But we did confirm. We know for sure it was on the record that she's reading about sexual sadism and selling human organs on the black market.
Yes.
Is that normal, Dr. Sue, for a 22-year-old? I mean, this is a 22-year-old who tried to kill someone.
I don't think so. No, it is absolutely not normal. This to me screams psychosis. So how could 3 therapists say that she is deemed well to go out into society? I just don't get it. I'm really shaking my head on this one. She belongs to stay in that facility for much longer until she's not doing these behaviors that are so concerning to society. And if I was Peyton, because she is 22 years old now, I'd really be trying to block this. But Julie, she's scared to death too, Peyton. She's been through so much trauma. Who is thinking about her? Who's protecting her now from this scary, scary, scary human being that's going to be released?
That's a great question, Dr. Sue. I'm with you. My heart breaks for Peyton Lautner. You're right. She's been through so much trauma. Her family's been through so much trauma. This has to be very disappointing, and look, it's not my case. If it were my case, I would be jumping up and down in that courtroom to keep her in that psych hospital. I would be. That's just me.
Yep.
It's the kind of prosecutor I was. If I saw somebody as a potential threat and a danger to society, and obviously these prosecutors may feel differently, don't know, but we'll see what happens when she's out. Who's going to take responsibility if something bad happens? I sure don't know. Dr. Sue, I know that you have clients to see, patients to see, and we have to let you go. Thank you for being so generous with your time this morning. It was great having you on both opening statements and Court TV Live. We will talk again soon. And we've got Sunny for all this hour and for our next hour. So stand by, Sunny, please. We'll hit a break. When we come back, more of the hearing to let Morgan Geyser go free, go to a group home where she's not going to have the monitoring that she's had over the last 7 years since she took that plea deal in the stabbing of her classmate. We'll be right back.
Morgan asked me whether or not she should do it, and I just wanted it to be over with, so I said, just go berserk, do what you have to do.
I came up from behind her, and I jumped on her. I tackled her, and I stabbed her. I just want to let Bella and her family know I'm sorry. Never meant this to happen.
Morgan Geyser set to be released today from a mental health facility after a judge signed off on a release for her on Thursday. She's 22 years old now. She'll transition from a state psychiatric hospital into a group home setting. She's been in the state hospital for the past 7 years. She stabbed her classmate Peyton Lautner 19 times back in the year 2014 to please a fictional character named Slender Man. Let's go back into the courtroom for more key moments from Geyser's motions hearing last week.
The city attorney for Sun Prairie is here. Do you have a response to that?
Thank you, Your Honor. I agree with Attorney Cotton's assessment of the statute. My concern is that we are given this notice. I don't even believe we're aware of the release date until just now when he indicated that. And so we were informed yesterday that Ms. Geyser was going to be placed in our community. And I understand that she needs to be released, and she needs to be released somewhere that can provide an appropriate level of care. My concern is with this particular placement within our community because of its location. And without knowing any of the conditions of the conditional release plan, which I understand we can't know under 5130, it's very hard for us to ascertain whether or not this could truly be an appropriate placement, whether or not our police department will be able to adequately serve the needs of the community under the plan. Because all we know at this point is that she's going to be placed in a community that's a densely populated residential area with close proximity to a number of schools, daycares, and parks. And our residents, if they find out about this, will be outraged. And I understand that the plan is confidential, but unfortunately, due to the notoriety of this case, I think if our residents see Ms. Geyser outside of the home or taking a walk in the neighborhood with supervision, they will be aware of who she is.
Well, I guess you agree with Attorney Cotton's assessment of the statute? I thought that was the first thing you said.
Yeah, I think he's correct that we don't necessarily have the ability to object. I appreciate that the court let us appear this morning and at least reviewed our material. I believe we have an obligation to our residents, and our police chief is here as well, to object to this particular placement given where it's located within the city.
Well, and you also said, because my initial thought, I've got to be honest, before everybody agrees what the statute means apparently, was that I was going to give you some time to formulate specific objections and present them, but what you're telling me is because you can't see the plan anyway, you're not going to be able to do that. And it's just the general idea that Ms. Geyser is going to be placed in the community that is causing you concern.
I think it's this particular location within our community. I don't think we would ever have any grounds to completely object to someone being placed anywhere within our city. Our broader concern is this specific location. And because no one believes they're able to share the plan with us, which I understand given the strict statutory regulations, we can't review it to determine whether or not we feel more comfortable with it, when we feel more comfortable explaining what occurred to our residents if they find out. If we knew that there were significant conditions. We have no idea what the conditions are. It's our understanding previously that this was a care home for developmentally disabled adults. We didn't want to reach out to the homeowners and speak with them because we didn't want to breach any of the confidentiality of the statute. Our real struggle is whether or not this specific placement is appropriate. And I would just ask the court to specifically examine that because the court does know what the conditional release conditions are and the part of the plan is. We don't. So all we know is that we were informed yesterday that someone was going to be released into our community, into a densely populated residential area, adjacent to a wooded path that travels throughout the community. And we had significant concerns about that for the safety of our community.
Let's speak to, who's here for DHS? Ms. Groff?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, can you speak, I assume in determining this place, determining a location for placement, one of the factors you were considered was the location and what was going on around it. Is that right?
That is correct. In any conditional release plan, we look at location. But in Ms. Geyser's case, she's not a sex offender. There's no history or any concern in any of her evals of her being close to any schools, any parks. So that does not raise a major concern, along with all the things we put in place in the plan to mitigate any risk.
Would you want to live next to her? Would you want to stay down the hall from her in the group home? We'll talk more about Morgan Geyser and hear some reaction from her attorney after the break.
Did a lost letter lead to murder?
He acted in self-defense.
A misunderstanding over mail turns deadly.
Now the victim's neighbor faces life in prison.
The returned mail murder trial. Live coverage today on Court TV.
Saturday nights on ION.
It's our night.
Let's go! Double headers every Saturday at 7 and 10 p.m. Eastern. The new Saturday Night Out is on ION all season long.
Because all we know at this point is that she's going to be placed in a community that's a densely populated residential area with close proximity to a number of schools, daycares, and parks. And our residents, if they find out about this, will be outraged. And I understand that the plan is confidential, but unfortunately, due to the notoriety of this case, I think if our residents see Ms. Geyser outside of the home or taking a walk in the neighborhood with supervision, they will be aware of who she is.
Morgan Geyser set to be released today from a state-run psychiatric hospital. She's 22 years old now. She will step down into a group home setting. She's been in the hospital for the last 7 years. She stabbed her classmate 19 times back in 2014 to please the fictional character Slender Man. Let's go back into the courtroom for more of the key moments from her hearing.
Based on what seems to be the consensus that Sun Prairie really doesn't have standing to object, as both Attorney Cotton and I think the city attorney acknowledged, and more importantly, the findings of DHS that they had adequately investigated this facility, that given the protections that are contained in the plan, which I have reviewed in great detail, which include but are not limited to GPS monitoring, I don't think there's anything inappropriate about this particular placement, and I will I will approve the conditional release plan as recently submitted. Anything else? Anybody else want to be heard?
Your Honor, I appreciate you letting the city be here. The city would simply ask for some additional clarification, and perhaps we can have a conversation with Ms. Graff afterwards about what we can do to communicate to our residents should this become a concern, because our big concern is public transparency. I don't think that Ms. Geyser deserves to be locked inside a house and never be allowed to see the sun. That's not an appropriate placement for anyone. That's inhumane. But I want to make sure that if our residents see her in the community, we have some sort of ability to respond that, yes, we were aware, we're comfortable with the plan in place. And I appreciate that everyone is bound by a very strict statute in terms of what they can release to us. But I think anything that we would be able to share with our residents, that we were informed of the placement, that the court approved the plan after ensuring that our residents would be safe, that there is this GPS monitoring, anything that we would be able to share to our residents to kind of assuage them of their safety.
I'm fairly certain that Ms. Graff would be happy to participate in those kind of discussions. Is that right, Ms. Graff?
That's correct, Your Honor.
And I would encourage it. I believe they will do everything possible. This is obviously a difficult situation for everybody. We are trying to balance. We got a lot of spinning plates. We're trying to make it better for everybody moving forward. Let Ms. Geyser move on with her life, keep the community safe. And I think this plan, and it took us a while to get here, don't get me wrong, I think this is a good balance of all of those concerns, and that's why I'm approving it, and we're going to move forward. Anything else from anybody here today?
No, thank you, Judge.
No, thank you.
Anybody on video? Thank you. Have a good day, everybody.
All right, so now let's hear from Morgan Geyser's attorney. Her attorney's reaction to the change in the facilities and how his client is going to be managing her release.
The DHS has found a great spot for Morgan, so it was a very substantive hearing and a good result for her.
What would you say about some of the concerns that the city of Sun Prairie brought up, just how about maybe their community's reaction to all this?
I appreciate their input, but at the end of the day, Morgan's got to be placed in a facility that's suitable for her, and this is a suitable facility. So she's going to be safe. Like I said last time, I think that she is going to be closely monitored, closely supervised as she transitions back into the community.
This new facility, you mentioned it's got sewing, knitting, potential for gardening. How does Morgan feel about all of that?
Morgan's very excited about being in a place where she would be able to grow as an individual more than the other facility, which was really very dystopian. She would be the only person there. There was going to be a camera on her at all times. I mean, it just sounded, I suppose, better than being in the institution, but not much. And it didn't offer room for growth. I think what everybody wants is that she will readjust to society. She's been in custody for 10 years now. I mean, imagine being 12 years old and now in your early 20s and you've never left confinement. It's horrible. So this facility really will allow her to grow as a person and I think be a safer and better member of the community.
The last time that we were here, we thought that was the end of it, and now there was another change in the facilities. Are you or is Morgan worried at all that this is just going to continue? There will be a continuing change in facilities?
No, I'm not worried. This is it. She's going to get out. It's going to happen within a week, and she's going to do good. So imagine being somebody who in January is told you can be released within 30 days, and now you're in July going into August, and you still haven't been released. The amount of stress that would put any human being under, let alone a 22-year-old like Morgan, is extraordinary. So if she were to have issues, you would have seen something develop in that time. The stress didn't cause her to buckle. The stress didn't cause her to relapse and suddenly start becoming violent or have outbursts. In fact, she's weathered this particular storm with, I think, more strength and courage than anybody I've ever represented.
The only other last question for me, if anyone else has anything. There were concerns that Sun Prairie City Attorney felt that they wouldn't be able to explain this to their residents, what would you say to their residents about this release?
It's really not my job to explain the release to the residents. I hope what they say to the people who live in Sun Prairie is that Morgan is going to be very closely supervised, very closely monitored. She will have a team of professionals taking care of her. And if there's even the slightest issue, they know exactly how to take someone into custody and put them right back in in an inpatient facility.
And on that note about the concerns with the city, is it state law that you have to inform them that this level of a patient is coming in?
Yes, state law requires that the police department be notified that a person is being released to the community, but it really doesn't say that they have the right to object. It's a notification requirement. People should be aware of what is going on in their community, but people have to be released somewhere. And so, if you permit cities to object, then you'd have everybody objecting. You'd never release people.
All right, Morgan Geyser's attorney there. Let's get some reaction from our law enforcement expert guest, Sunny Slaughter. Sunny, what do you think of her attorney's thoughts on this?
I think her attorney is doing what he must. While I may not agree with him, it is the job of the defense counsel to represent their clients with extreme zealous and fervor and to say what he is saying. That is his job. And I think he is representing her well, even though I do not agree with his assessment. I do support defense counsels because it is very important for us to recognize doing his job and to not take it out on him personally, because if he wasn't doing his job, I would actually have a problem with that. And I would think that he should be removed. He is saying everything that he needs to say. He believes in his client. He is acting ethically, and that is what he's supposed to do, even though I don't agree.
Yeah, Sunny, thank you for that. Yeah, he's got a job to do, right? He's an advocate for her. So he's being paid to advocate for a particular position. And his concern is Morgan Geyser and Morgan Geyser alone. It's not his job to be concerned about the victim or the safety of the community. It's just not his job. He's protecting her legal rights, as you know, her constitutional rights. Prosecutors, that's another story. Tell me what you think here. Do you think there's been a tough enough fight by the state to keep her in that facility long enough?
Well, I think they can only do, a prosecutor cannot take the weight. They can listen to the community, but they have to be careful not to take on the role of community in their job as prosecutors. Their job is to follow the law, to address all of the things that are focused on the law, and to think about public safety in a way, but they also can't take too much of the weight from the public, and they also can't take too much of the weight from the victims, which is why they have victims advocates to kind of broad shield them from any over bias. They cannot be biased in their role. They have to be focused on the law, focused on their positions to uphold the law, and to do it in a way that is ethical, sound, and reasonable. I think that is what other people are supposed to do, like the victim's advocate, to focus on that, and the victims themselves, and for other organizations and entities and individuals to be really forceful in their dismay about what is happening.